On. Okay, everybody, just go double check it's live on the channel before we get started. I'm joined here with UrinatingTree. So give me 1 second as we make sure this thing is live. And
what
we
up,
are live.
boys?
Okay. Perfect. Welcome, Tree, to the show. Before we get started, please follow us both on Twitter. And me is at @senstock_. And Tree, what's your Twitter?
Just UrinatingTree.
Perfect.
Like, my last few tweets are just like me wanting to die over Erica Branson.
And my last few tweets are me wanting to die over Melnick being the owner of the Sounders and Mark Stone being traded.
I don't blame you one bit.
Yeah. It's been a tough go recently to be an Ottawa Sounders fan, and I think that's where we should start, considering this is a Sounders channel. So do you want to start talking about the Mark Stone deal?
I'm surprised they didn't get a first-round pick for him. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Trade. Before we get into that, though, let me recap the trade so people that missed it can get an understanding. And if anyone has comments, I'm following the chat, so please comment in the comment section live, and I will get to that when I can. So Mark Stone goes to Vegas. He automatically signs an 8-year deal for 9.5, not signed officially. After March 1st, he can do that. Eric Brandstrom, a top prospect in the NHL, to Ottawa, along with Oscar Lindberg, a third liner, and a second-round pick. Tree, what's your initial thoughts on that deal?
As I said, I feel like I'm surprised Ottawa didn't get a first-round pick for Stone. He's your best player by a country mile.
Yeah.
Oscar Lindberg, he's filler. He's just there for a body to get to the roster minimum. Brandstrom is a solid prospect, but he's going to be the piece. But I don't know if Brandstrom should be the key when to be fair, for a talent like a Stone. And the second round pick's going to be mid-road.
Yeah. My initial thoughts were you're going to lose a Mark Stone deal no matter what, and I think, considering how Pierre Dorion was tied down, the deal could have been worse. But the fact he got for once, an optimistic thing is Pierre Dorion went for quality instead of quantity. Brandstrom is a top-end prospect, one of the best in the NHL. That's not in the NHL. He's one of the best prospects in the AHL. He's tearing it up there as a 19-year-old. And he reminds me a lot, ironically, as Erik Karlsson. Not saying he's going to be Erik Karlsson. Not saying he's generational talent, but I think he's going to be a legit potential star. But I think Ottawa, that's a good piece. Lindberg, fine. I was hoping, my opinion for a guy like Stone, with that extension happening, should have been Tuck, Tuck, Brandstrom in a first. That's just my opinion. What do you think about that?
I doubt they were going to give up Tuck.
Yeah,
Tuck's been doing well, and he just got extended too.
Yeah, and I was thinking, because you were speaking before the stream started, Tree, we're not even close to the floor. We have 18 to 20 million left in the summer to get to the cap floor. So I was thinking maybe they would throw in somebody like a CC, and you get back a Tuck. I don't know why teams like CC, but a Tuck, get to the cap floor.
I don't know why you'd even want a CC. I was worried about the Pens. He's not good. I was worried the Pens would trade a first-round pick for him, and you'd be jumping for joy at that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I would definitely be jumping in joy at that. But my first reaction to this was the deal went down to the last 20 minutes, Tree, right? And I was like, okay. In the last 2-3 hours, I was thinking, okay, we're here now. And in my video yesterday, I said the trade. If Stone's not signed by October 1, he'd likely traded. But the thing here at 2-ish, I was like, uh-oh, because there's been no info. I was starting to think they were going to just keep him past the deadline. That scared me. And then we got the info about Kyprios and Bob McKenzie. And then it was like, okay, so we have a team that's going to be trading for him. Then I found out it was Vegas. And Vegas was always my team that I wanted Karlsson to be traded to. Not because I liked them specifically, but more importantly, because they have one of the deepest prospect pools in the league and good players in the NHL too. So it's a good balance to get back. So I'm happy they did that. What I'm not happy about is Brandstrom is a legit top prospect, but the rest of the deal does not scream anything to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, they got
rental rate for Stone.
Yeah. And at first, I saw the deal. I'm like, okay, I was pissed because Stone got traded, but Brandstrom, Lindberg in a second. In 2019, 2020, I believe, was good until I saw that he signed an extension. And then I'm like, but he signed an extension. So why Pierre Dorion are you
8 years, $9.5 million? I mean, that's steep. I mean, that back end of that contract might be pretty rough. especially for a physical guy like a Stone.
I think Stone is one of those players. He's a very unique player in the National Hockey League, and I've watched him my whole life. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see him as much anymore, and it's heartbreaking. But I'm fortunately used to it as a SENS fan. But Mark Stone does not rely on his speed to do well in the National Hockey League. This is why I think he will be. I think that contract's worth it. Even in the last year of that deal, it may be a little steep, but I think he's going to be a contributor for years and years and years because he has a great hockey IQ and a great two-way game. He doesn't rely on his speed. It's all in the high Q. It's all in his brain. That's why I think he's going to be able to play in his 8th year at $9.5 million, and he'll still be able to contribute a lot because that IQ that he has.
Like, I'm more worried about his physicality because he seems more like a power forward to me.
He gives that impression because he's a huge guy, but he does lay the body sometimes, but he's mostly in the board stealing the puck. He's not usually laying the body, if you know what I mean. He's not like a Lucic, if that's what you're getting the impression of. He's more
but like board play is usually a big key of like a physical forward too, you know.
You're not wrong about
players
that.
Out in the line.
You're not wrong about that, but you got to remember he's 26 right now. At the end of that deal, he'll be 34. So maybe
33, 34. So like the last 2 years might be rough, but like most of the contracts should be okay.
It's a good value deal. At the end of the day, it's still a good value deal. So I think we agree on that. Yeah. Besides that, this deal, where do you see Ottawa in the next 5 years if Melnyk sells?
Melnyk sells?
Yeah, let's say he sells, because before you answer that, on Thursday, the Breton Flats, we're going to find out if Ottawa's getting an arena downtown. And if they do, I assume Melnyk will be selling the team right after he gets a deal and Seattle money, because the value of the franchise will go up. So let's say Melnyk sells 5 years down the road, prospects are developed. Where do you see Ottawa?
I would see maybe middle of the road. It would depend on how like their high-end prospects really go. Because Tom Chabot can carry a defense if he develops properly. Like Brady Tkachuk, I can see him being solid top 6. You're going to have to rely on, your Colin Whites, your Logan Browns, your Alex Formentons, Drake Mathersons.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys are going to have to really step up.
And I can see that happening. But
Oh, sorry. Especially since, like, you don't have your first-round pick this year.
Yes.
And it might turn into something special. That's going to sting.
Yes. But here's one thing to remember. We're going to be really bad next year, and we have our first round pick next year, which will most likely be a top 4, top 6 pick.
Yeah.
So there's that.
So you got a chance at Alexis Lafreniere. So that's who you're looking at.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's who I'm looking at right now. Because considering the fact that we at the time of the deal, I was a fan of the chain deal. Now I'm not, for obvious reasons. Looking to next year, we're not going to be good, and hopefully we won't be good because we can't be good if we won't be well in the future.
They're looking at least a couple years where they're going to be rough.
It's going to be rough. But it will, without Melnyk at the helm, it will be worth it because with money and the prospects we have right now, I could see ourselves being really good in the future.
You have to play your cards right, but of course, I mean, if you play if you don't do anything stupid like trade away future assets, you should be all right.
Yeah, I don't see how he would do that, especially with the way the fans, the way they've been, flexing. We got all these assets, this and that, and this and that. You know what I mean? But sorry, I was reading a comment. But I think the way the Sanders, they have the good amount of good prospects right now, and Brandon Chabot's a solid top 2 with Wolanin's another good defenseman. DeMello will be there; he's young, good top 4 right there. But in the future, these draft picks are going to make or break the future of this team because we don't know what those are. They all can be busts. They all can be all guys. We don't know what they are, and that's scary as a hockey fan. I have trust in the scouting group, but what if that goes wrong? Then all of this screwed over the franchise for years. So it's really on those draft picks to see if we can do well or not.
I would say, go ahead, dude. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Nah, I didn't have anything to say, unfortunately. So, just more listening to you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Besides that, there's not much more to talk about for the Mark Stone deal. I think we both agree on that. I think before we get to Wayne Simmons, the next trade, let's just touch up on Duchesne deal and Dzingel deal. Not much about the deal. I already did video recaps about that, but more about Columbus. They acquired Adam McQuaid today. They got the 2 guys. They kept Panarin and Bobrovsky. Where do you see Columbus in the playoffs this year, if they make the playoffs?
Well, they're going all in. I mean, these moves specify that because they had 2 options. They could either sell Panarin and Bobrovsky and reload, or they could go just balls deep and try for everything. But I mean, if they lose in the first round again this year, heads are going to roll.
Oh yeah, and Jarmo Kekalainen's job is on the line.
It's a huge gamble. Huge gamble. Because you've traded, like, you only have 2 draft picks this year.
Yeah.
If like a third and like a conditional 7th.
Yeah, it's not an ideal situation if you're a Columbus fan, but if they go to the second or third round, it could be seen as worth it.
Sorry, it's Calgary 7th they got this year.
Can you see this Columbus team? I could see them beating out a team like Pittsburgh. No offense, I could see them beating out.
I don't blame you. I do too.
I could see Pittsburgh them beating out. Yeah, I could see a team like them beating out Carolina. It'll be close because Carolina's on a hot run, but there's no goaltending in Carolina, so I can see them beating them out. Washington, Holtby's been this year, but Tampa Bay, that's the freight train you're going to be hitting, and you got to be ready for that series if they meet each other. That's why I don't. If it wasn't for Tampa Bay, I could see them going to the finals. But Tampa Bay is on a freight train; they're going right to the finals, in my opinion.
Tampa Bay, Toronto, Boston. Boston has been sneakily good. The issue with them is they haven't been able to stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, they got a chance to take out Toronto and Tampa. It varies.
I'd love to see Toronto lose. As a Sens fan, it would be perfect to see Boston take them out in the first round. And just speaking about Toronto for a sec, Toronto, solid forward core, but I've always expressed this: you can't have a team like Toronto as Stanley Cup contenders when your defense is very weak after Riley and, I guess, Muzzin. They should have used that Tavares money. It's maybe a hot take, but that Tavares money should have went to a top defenseman, which they desperately need. Because if they're going to go all in on it, and they sign William Nylander now, unless you trade one of these guys or Marlowe or something, you kind of screwed yourself over for the back end of your defense.
Marner is going to be the big issue because Matthews just got an extension, so Marner's going to be demanding Matthews money.
Yeah.
So I doubt they want to spend around $35 million for 3 players. That would be suicide.
And I can't disagree with you. And the problem is, I like splashy moves. I respect GMs that make splashy moves. You're putting your ball in the court, But the problem is, the splashy move has to make sense. If they were going to sign Tavares, do it, but get rid of Marlowe's contract. Now he's old. He's not producing. I don't know if you can get rid of that contract anymore. It's a problem.
They'll have to dangle something else with it.
But that's the thing. I'm not a GM. I'm not a GM. But I think we both can agree on this tree. You have a player like Tavares coming in, great asset. Should definitely have gotten him. By doing so, though, you get rid of Marlowe, so you can sign Nylander, and you can hopefully get those 2 defensive prospects up there, Sandin and Liljegren, get Marner on a good contract. In my opinion, Marner should have been dealt with in the summer, not on the MVP season, in my opinion. But that's easy to say now.
And to be fair, I don't think Toronto really didn't think they would sign Tavares, to be fully honest with you. I was like, whoa, we got Tavares? Sure. Okay.
I was when I saw that, I'm like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, of course the Leafs got Tavares. One thing I just saw a comment from Waffles the Wookiee. Curtis McElhinney's a 923 save percentage. Yeah, I know McElhinney's been really good, but he's not really had any playoff. Just to comment on that, he said there's no. Because I said there's no goaltending in Carolina. Goaltending is one of those things where you get hot, and with Carolina,
they've also got Mrazek too, so he could always turn it on.
I think they have good goaltending, but when it comes to the playoffs, if they're not hot, because right now they're clearly hot, they're on a run. If they're not hot in the playoffs, they're done. Goaltending is everything in the playoffs, and that goaltending is shaky at best because hasn't proven themselves to be a really 1-2 solid tandem. It's just in a hot streak right now. So never look at numbers for a goaltender unless they're a solidified top goalie, because that always can come crushing down right away. We know that from a lot of examples like Freddie Anderson last year in the playoffs. He carried his team too long, and the numbers showed it in the playoffs because his defense couldn't help him at all.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, moving on now. I just wanted to see about Columbus because I think that's the most intriguing team in the Eastern Conference because they got Tampa Bay there, but Columbus is right there. And they're going to give them a run for their money.
They need stable goaltending. They need Bobrovsky to be season Bobrovsky, not playoff Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
Korpisalo's like, I don't think he's ready. But they got Keith Kincaid as a decent backup, but he is what he is, a backup.
Yeah, and I like that trade. They traded him for a 2022 fifth-round draft pick. And, you know, Kincaid has a couple of games of playoff experience. It's a good trade by Columbus there just to solidify that goaltending depth, just in case, God forbid, one of those two goaltenders get injured or they're not doing well, whatever. It's good to have another goalie in your system that you can rely on. Anyway, moving forward now, Nashville acquired another big name today. Firstly, they traded Kevin Fiala for Marcus Granlund. We could talk about that after. But today they acquired Philadelphia Flyers forward Wayne Simmons for Ryan Hartman, who they acquired last year for a first-round pick from Chicago, and a fourth rounder. So what's your initial thoughts on that deal?
I'm not a fan of that trade for Nashville.
Yeah.
Wayne Simmons has not been what he is. Like, he's definitely on the decline. And Ryan Hartman at least can develop into something decent.
Yeah.
I like it for the sake of the youth.
I think you look at a deal like the Brian Boyle deal. I think they may have overpaid for him, you know, give a third rounder, but Brian Boyle's a solid player. If you wanted toughness, you got Brian Boyle for that. I don't know why you need Wayne Simmons. I love the player. You know, he has great talent, but he is on the decline of his career. He is a UFA, so there's not much of a risk here. You're going on a deep playoff run no matter what. It's going to look fine. You're not going to look too bad for yourself. But I think Wayne Simmons, he only has like 20, 30 points this year. He's on the decline, but hopefully, you know, I'm rooting for the guy. I've always liked the hockey player. He's always been one of my favorite players, especially on a team I don't like the Flyers. But Simmons, love to see him win a cup, hopefully with Nashville, because, you know, when he was in Philadelphia, that team just never could get over the hump or just never could get in the playoffs because of consistent goaltending. He's older now. I would love to see him go on a run.
Yeah, they traded him to LA. Traded him for Richards, right?
Was that the deal? I thought. Yeah. You're right. That was.
Yeah, because Carter was Columbus. That's the Jack Johnson deal.
Yes, and it's funny thinking about it. Just thinking about all these weird trades. Bobrovsky, Philadelphia. They could have had a lot more success if they would have kept him. But anyway, at any rate, just wanted to throw that in there. That's always a weird one.
They technically invested in Ilya Bryzgalov. That was a wise investment. That's why Philly doesn't have a goaltender. And I fear that they're going to ruin Carter Hart as well, but we'll see.
I think, though, like somebody just commented, I tend to agree with this comment too, though, where he says he's a good body in front of the net, power play specialist, not afraid to dig in the corners, and he's a great veteran. That's kind of what Tree and I were saying, because even though we think he's on the decline of his career, he's a good player, and he's going to still do that. I just don't know if it was necessary for Nashville to acquire him, but I think that's what we were talking about, bro, right?
Yeah. Like, as I said, he's not the Wayne Simmons he was like 2 or 3 years ago. If you're getting that Wayne Simmons, it's a good deal. But from what I've been seeing from Simmons, he's not that. His body's just wearing down on him.
I think, like we were talking about, I threw in that he's a UFA. He has one more run in him, I think, that he can play some decent hockey. So I think that's why, especially since they'll probably go on a deep run, this trade will look fine.
I think it'll be okay if you shelter him with bottom 6 minutes. So if you put him in Hartman's role, I think he might be okay. But if you're counting first-line Wayne Simmons, you're mistaken.
Fair enough. And I completely agree with that. But the next deal, before we get to the Jets deal, Kevin Fiala for Marcus Granlund. Interesting trade. What's your thoughts on that one?
Minnesota is obviously trying to get younger. That's the main thing with that. I mean, you see it with Coyle for Donato. You saw it with Niederreiter for Rask wasn't really getting younger, but that's blown up in Minnesota's face. Yeah, I mean, Granlund, I didn't realize he was only 26. I thought he was like 29, 30.
Yeah, I thought he was in his late. I don't know. I've seen him as like a consistent, decent player. I thought he was older. He's still young.
Yeah, I think Paul Fenton, he really loves his old Minnesota Wild or Nashville players. Like, he brought in Anthony Bitetto, he brought back Pontus Aberg, he brought in Kevin Fiala, who has promise. Next, we're gonna see him probably trade for Kalle Järnkrok and his great deal, or maybe even who else did they really draft per se?
Can't even think about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm drawing a blank right now.
But I think this deal does things for both teams. I think Marcus Granlund gives Nashville that center that everyone covets, underrated center for a cheap price, and Kevin Fiala He's very inconsistent, still young, so he has potential, and I think that's what Minnesota wants. So it's a win-win for both teams, in my opinion.
Minnesota needs to get younger, but they can't really blow it up because of the Suter and Parise contract. Yeah, so I think they're trying the next best thing.
Yeah.
And the thing with Granlund, too, is where do you put Kyle Turris?
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to Turris. He's had a really underwhelming year, and he's in this first deal of his 6-year deal with $6 million.
Yeah, Turris has not been what they wanted.
No,
and it's a shame.
I don't know why. Because he never showed any signs of decline when he was with Ottawa.
I'm guessing would probably be a situation like a Derek Brassard. I mean, like good player just on the wrong team.
Yeah, I think so. I think let's speak about that right now. Actually, that's a great segue. So Colorado today acquired Derek Brassard and a 6th-round pick for a 3rd-round pick to Florida, and it looked like a minor deal on the front of it, but Derek Brassard has a lot of playoff experience, and for a team like Avalanche that are fighting for their playoff lives right now that need some secondary scoring, I think Derek Brassard is a great fit there to get some good minutes.
The thing with Brassard is if you don't have expectations, he might be okay for you. The problem when he was a Penguin, we were expecting him to be like, this 3rd-line center, 1st-line dynamo that was going to ring back the HBK line, and I think that's what undid him here. Plus, he was a poor fit for the scheme.
Yes, he was. Can we just give props to Pierre Dorion for that great trade, 1st-rounder and Gustafsson, et cetera, and basically got a good defensive prospect of Gustafsson and another 3rd-round pick for Brassard. That's a pretty good deal for Ottawa. That's a win.
The issue with Ottawa was like if Melnick could retain salary, he could have gotten more.
Yes, unfortunately, but let's look at the positives. There's not a lot of positives surrounding Ottawa, so.
It depends who do they do? Dorio Becker, I think the guy they drafted.
Daryl Becker. Oh, Jacob Bernard Docker.
Yeah, Bernard Docker. Sorry,
he's really well.
That was the guy they drafted with the pick, and then Gustafsson. Got to see how he develops first.
Right now, he's not having the best season, but Marcus Hartwick's really helping that Belleville team, and we're going to talk about that in a sec. But I see a couple people talking about Zuccarello. He had 2 points in Dallas, but he just recently broke his arm and he gets surgery. What's your opinion on that? Because that is devastating for Zook.
That sucks.
And the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, the problem with Dallas is they didn't get anything else to back him up. I kind of figured like they would be the guys that trade for Tanner Pearson.
Yeah,
but like that's just bad luck. That's not much you can really do about that. Especially since Dallas is just a glorified one-line team. So,
yeah, I think with Zook being out for 4 weeks, I don't want to say it, but I think Dallas might follow the playoff spot, especially Jamie Benn's injured long-term too. Right now he's listed as day-to-day, but every point counts because it's very tight. So we'll see.
Especially the Central. Yeah.
We'll see. But the Blues have been really good. The Avs may get better now because of Brassard.
Avs have won, I think, 4 straight now. I think they're starting to figure out how to play hockey again.
And Brassard will definitely help out with that secondary scoring.
You need guys like Tyson Yost and Carl Soderberg, JT Compher. You need those guys to step up.
I agree. They need those guys to step up because you can't rely on Landeskog, Rantanen, and McKinnon, of course, to carry your team. And then you're just going to turn to the Dallas Stars. And
they're a great first line, but you don't win on one line.
There's a comment here from Matthew LaRocque. You guys will eat your words when you see Branson play. We're not saying Eric Brandstrom is a bad prospect. We're just saying it's great for Mark Stone with an extension. There should have been more on that deal.
I think Brandstrom could be a very solid player.
I think he's going to be a future top 2 pairing defenseman with Shabbat. I think he's going to be an all-star. I just think in a deal where Stone got an extension, there should have been more in that deal. Brandstrom's for sure a top end, one of the top prospects in the NHL, but that deal should have got more with an extension with it. Anyway, just wanted to comment on that, just if people thought that was my opinion. As a Sens fan, I know Brandstrom's going to be a really good player. Moving forward now, Kevin Hayes to the Winnipeg Jets. Good deal for Winnipeg, a little steep in my opinion, but they acquired Kevin Hayes from the Rangers. Kevin Hayes having a breakout season, over almost 50 points, I believe. For Brendan Lemieux, a 2019 first and conditional 4th, the Winnipeg wins the Stanley Cup. Your opinion on that one, Tree?
I like the deal for the Rangers. I mean, getting a first-round pick in a market where DeSingle gets 2 seconds and Nyquist gets a second, that's good return.
I can't disagree with that. I saw that and I'm like, okay, this trade works for two teams because firstly, Winnipeg doesn't care about that first rounder. They got Line A, they got Connor, they have Ehlers. Those are your young guys. Don't got to worry about that first rounder. It's probably gonna be a late first, assuming they go deep. They get Kevin Hayes, who is a great second liner. Now you have a competition between Little and Kevin Hayes for that second line center role. And if whoever loses that gets a third line center role, which is no downgrade when you're on a team like the Winnipeg Jets with great offensive depth. Center core is deep. Kevin Hayes is what you need in the playoffs. A big body guy with skill. Great deal for both teams, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I'd lean more towards the Rangers on that one, but I mean, Winnipeg's going for broke. I mean, they have to.
Yeah, of course. It's kind of like what Toronto did a couple years ago with the Marleau acquisition. They realize this is their last chance to go for it with the cap space they have before they have to sign Line A, Ehlers, Connor, etc. So I see what you're saying there, and I can't disagree. They're going for it, and I'd love to see them win bring a cup back to to Canada. It's been a long time since that's happened.
In my personal opinion, there are at least 6 or 7 teams that pretty much have to win a cup right now. Tampa Bay, Toronto, Winnipeg, maybe Nashville, not really. I think they may have one more year before everything really hits. The Blue Jackets and the Sharks.
I can't disagree. I think with the Nashville, I think they have next year. Then they're screwed because
and then Yossi going to be due. Yossi's due for a big contract race by that point, and that's what's going to hurt.
Yes, and we also have to remember Rene's age.
Yeah, it's like 37, but Saros should be okay for as a transition.
Yeah. I just think they have Nashville has 2-3 years max, and they have a bunch of bad contracts after 4 or 5 years there. So this is the next 2 years are crucial for the Nashville Predators in a very tough Western Conference.
Of course, Western Conference, like at least the top end, is going to be brutal.
It's very ironic because in a league that prides himself in what do you call it, when the evenly distributed talent, the West, I've never seen something like it. Teams in the playoff race, not in the playoff race, in the playoff spots, and especially division spots, are absolutely killing it, like 80-something points. I've never seen, especially the Pacific. There, it's the shootout there. San Jose, Flames, and Vegas now.
The West it's a shit show. It is a total shit show.
Then you look at the wild card, and like Edmonton, 58 points are still in it.
Still make it.
That makes no sense. It just boggles my mind.
Minnesota's got the last wild card spot, and if they make it, they're going to be knocked out hard.
That's true. Like hard, because when is Dumba even supposed to get back?
I have no idea. But broken hands are always weird, especially for offensive players.
Yeah.
Like how long until he's going to be able to comfortably grip a stick again?
Especially as a defenseman in playoff form, you got to hope soon, because
of course
that is crucial to the success of the Minnesota Wild. And like you said in your video for the Minnesota Wild, that deal sort of killed them. And I can't say I disagree with you because, you look at that deal and really you look at that deal and those deals that they signed for Suter and and Parise, they have nothing now. They have to go for it, even though they probably shouldn't, like you said in your video.
Columbus pretty much has to.
Yeah. It's a bad situation. Well, Columbus, going back to Columbus,
I'm sorry. I thought you said Columbus. That's my bad, dude.
I don't worry. It doesn't matter. Speaking of Columbus for now anyway, I don't disagree with you at all. This is it. This is their year. They got to win a playoff series for the first time in franchise history.
I don't think a playoff series is even going to be worth it. I think they're still disappointed even if they get knocked out in the second round.
If I was a Blue Jackets fan right now, you're either going to the conference finals or bust because you just traded your whole future. It's conference finals, or bust. That's my opinion. Moving forward now, we're going to talk about another trade. It doesn't look like a huge trade, but in my opinion, this could be drastic towards the playoff landscape in the Eastern Conference. Bruins acquire Marcus Johansson from the New Jersey Devils for a 2019 second and a 2020 fourth. Tree, what do you think about that?
Boston's bolstering their depth. The main key here is they've had a lot of issues trying to shuffle pieces together and really find that perfect form.
Yeah.
They've had great top-line production whenever they've been healthy. So the key for Boston is health.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had injuries to roughly every major player there. Chara's had a major injury. McAvoy, Marchand's been out for a while. Pasta's just had a 2-week injury. Tuukka Rask had a concussion. You also had Bergeron, who was out for a while. So, like, what they're looking at is like, okay, we need a nice third-line center or second-line winger for Krejci. We need a
we need help. You need
to bolster your top 9.
Yeah,
and that's what Boyle and Johansson are doing.
Because Johansson last year, the Devils have fallen off a cliff. Like I think we all expected them to this year. They've fallen back to reality, especially with Hall being injured. Torrey Krug as well got injured, but Marcus Johansson last year did really well when he has somebody feeding him the puck. He has a good shot and a good speed and capabilities there. So I think he's a good finisher, and I think that's what you need. If you put him next to a guy like David Krejci, I think that could work because Krejci is a very underrated center in the league. Doesn't get enough attention because Patrice Bergeron deservingly so gets more attention. So I think that could be a solid pickup there to put them through more rounds in the playoffs. Oh yeah,
like that. Boston will be a tough foe again if they stay healthy.
Yes, that's the key. And like I said previously with Carolina, goaltending is everything. Good thing about what I like about Boston did, they got themselves a solid backup option in Yaroslav Halak. So if Raskov or Bate gets injured, they don't have to worry. They have a solid option there. But I respect that a lot.
Halak has bounced back to form, so that's great for Boston.
Big time. And I was hoping a couple years ago that Ottawa would sign him. Now I just hope we just suck next year and get left for a year.
I think a lot of teams are.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, that guy has a lot of skill left for a year, and that's something Ottawa would love to have and trade away for good assets in the future. So
I can see him going in 6 years if Melnick's still there.
Oh, I see Branson leaving for a nice first rounder and a couple of good prospects. That's just my opinion.
Ooh. Very nice.
Here's another deal. Linus Karlsson for Jonathan Dahlen, San Jose and Vancouver. What's interesting about this one is Dahlen was a part of the Alex Burrows trade. So does Ottawa win that trade now? Like,
not really. Like, I'm still surprised Vancouver gave up on Dahlen that quickly. Why? I thought he was doing all right.
Me too. I saw that. I'm like
I was looking up Linus Karlsson, and he was like,
he's meh.
Yeah.
It was an odd move.
It's like a third-round pick that has 17 points in 48 games is a 19-year-old. It's like it's nothing. Wow.
It was a Jim Betting kind of deal. And he's been on a good streak as of late, so he kind of he ruined
Well, he did make one decent deal, but I don't really want to talk about that right now.
Think about it right now while I look up his stats.
Yeah.
What was that good deal?
It was a trade involving Brandon Sutter for nothing.
Oh, I don't remember that deal. How long ago was that?
I don't know, like an hour ago, maybe.
Oh, really? Oh, I must have missed that while doing my Mark Stone recap video. Huh. Okay, anyway, Jonathan Dahlen, 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 points in 50 AHL games so far. He's 5'11", 21 years old. That's good for your first pro season against some very matured and top players in the world for hockey. I don't know why you traded him for Linus Karlsson, who I'll look up his stats right now while you give your opinion there.
But on Goodbranson, just no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we were speaking about that before the stream started. I still don't understand that. I still don't understand why.
Because the Penguins have been desperate to get bigger and more physical since the 2017 Cup run. And I don't understand why, because the Penguins won solely on speed.
Yes.
That's what was their bread and butter, and now they have no identity. They've just gotten bigger and slower, and they've been getting smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at even a bare look at his base statistics, Erik Goodbranson is one of the worst players in the league. By a country mile. And he's being paid $4 million for the next 3 years. And I'm like, no. Dude, it's like Goodbranson would have been a great defenseman 20 years ago in the clutch and grab era. Not anymore.
Not now, that's for sure. You know what? Thank you, Tree, for your team that acquired Gabranson. Ottawa doesn't have to have him now because he's native of Ottawa, Canada. Thank God he's not coming here. Thank God, because we do not need any more shitty decor.
Yeah, they're probably gonna pair him with Jack Johnson. I bet you any money, and it's gonna get ugly.
Ooh, Sens
Save
fans
me.
can't wait to see y'all. Love you. Hate the Pens. Can't wait to see the Pens lose in the first round. No offense. That is what I want.
Dude, the Penguins aren't doing anything this year. They're way too inconsistent.
They are really.
It's bad.
And Matt Murray, is he the guy? Because they've been pretty inconsistent.
Matt Murray's issue is he can't stay healthy.
That's fair.
Now, to be fair, everyone's like, there are some hindsight saying we should have kept Fleury. You don't do that because you don't get rid of your younger goaltender who has a lower cap hit and it just won you back-to-back cups. You don't. I'm sorry.
Of course not.
You can't predict that Matt Murray's glove hand isn't going to develop. He can't stay healthy, and he has massive lapses like freakiness. You can't.
And I don't disagree with you. That was the right move. But now, like, how old is Crosby?
He's about 31, going to be 32 by the start.
Your window, you got a few more years left from your window. I say another 3-4 years.
Maybe. Like, the window's starting to close.
Oh, 100%. Because now you got Tampa Bay there, who's going to be like that for a while. You got I look at Pittsburgh as an interesting team because it's not just Crosby that carries their team. You have Malkin too. And how old is Malkin exactly? He's
like 32. He was drafted a year before Crosby.
Okay, so you have like 3 years left of your window, 3-4 years left until
maybe if we're lucky.
Yeah, I think.
Well, they traded away a lot of futures over the past few years.
I think you have 2-3 years left for Stanley Cup contention. 3-4 years of playoff. After that, time to rebuild. Unless somehow you strike gold again after 1 year, like you did with Lemieux and you did with Crosby, it saves your franchise and get another top guy. But
that's probably what happen because the Penguins' history has been based on incredibly lucky bullshit.
That's some BS, honestly. Your team was going to be
moving. Might be a decent video.
Crosby, same thing. You got Crosby.
It's happened like 4 times. It happened when in like the 70s when they were bankrupt and the NHL bottom out. Back in the early 80s when they were shit and deliberately tanked for Lemieux. It's a tough thing to admit, but it happens. When they were looking like terrible garbage and then they draft like Jaromir Jagr and end up getting Ronnie Franchise. It happened in the early 2000s when they were broke and about to move to Kansas City. And they were terrible and nobody showed up.
Yeah, so the kid, Malkin, back on top. I've never seen something like that. Because you look at Edmonton, they've had opportunities to be just like Pittsburgh, and they've screwed that quite a bit. Screwed the whole plan up a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Like, honestly. Let's go to Edmonton now. If you're Connor McDavid, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I've got to be worried about my long-term future.
Yeah. I can't disagree. Because you look at that lineup. You got McDavid. You got Draisaitl. You got RNH, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. That's solid. And then you have Alex Chason, Yuri Kara, like Ty Ratty. Like, you don't – Sam Gagner, I guess. Like, you don't got anything. And that's – if you got Puljujarvi, who they're not using properly because of the Oilers.
Well, they've destroyed – the Edmonton has just destroyed prospects, like, repeatedly.
Left, right, and center.
Dude, they've done that all the time. Like, Puljujarvi is just another line in a mass grave. Like, remember, Justin Schultz was completely destroyed by them. Devin Dubnyk was completely destroyed by them.
What happens
Magnus Puljujarvi, Sam Gagner. Yeah. Nugent Hopkins probably didn't live up to his potential. It nearly destroyed Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah. McDavid, they didn't, though, because he's McDavid.
Like, Clefbaum is kind of getting destroyed, too.
I'm surprised, out of all that, Nurse is solid. Quietly developed kind of nicely. He's starting to turn to that top 4 they hoped he would be, but there's a long history of ruining development. And I don't even see how they justify doing what they do with Puljujarvi. He's like, send him to the AHL if you're not going to play them. Come on, it's pretty simple. Why is he just sitting in the press box or play on the 4th line?
Because it's the Edmonton Oilers.
It's a shame. It's a shame.
They're a team that traded Connor McDavid's best friend for a guy that broke his collarbone.
It's a shame. And speaking as a Sens fan, can't be saying anything either. We could have got Hall for CC, but we didn't. So that would have been something. But anyway.
Well, I mean, that almost happened. It would have been even worse.
Oh, it's just funny because, man, if that trade would have happened, I think that might have been up there for one of the worst deals of all time.
Oh, of course.
Like,
well, CC's a mess.
Oh, I think the problem with Cody CC is we drafted him. We drafted him over Matt Dumbaré.
Yeah,
and we drafted him
class
because he was a local guy, local potential. He's played for a local team out of 67, so we're doing really, really, really well. By the way, speaking of that, just a quick thing, we're going to be doing 67 videos during the playoffs. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to make 67 videos for this channel as a heads up. But we drafted Cody CC assuming that he'd be the next big thing, right? And we put him right away in. We ruined his development, and we played him as a top 2, top 4 defenseman. He's more of a 4 or 5, 6 option. And I think if you put him more in a sheltered position where he can actually play to his skill set and play 4, 5, 6 spot, I think his numbers would improve advanced stats wise, offensively, and just eye test. You would just see he'd be a more complete, better player if the matchups were better matched up for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all about this. The Senators have rushed him, and that's what's ruined him. That's just my opinion.
Oh, I mean, you could say that about most players, technically. I mean, even like Olyarvi.
Yeah.
Or like, there's like a couple others. Like Islanders nearly did it with Niederreiter.
Yeah, Yakupov.
Yakupov is also like a guy who has a lot of physical attributes, but can't really read the game.
True.
It's also one of those guys, so.
It's a shame what happened to Yakupov. He had so much potential. It's not even tearing it up in the KHL. He doesn't have a point per game there. It tells you all you need to know. He's just has lost all confidence for a former first overall pick, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes, right?
Oh, always.
Moving forward now, I assume you know your sports. You look at the acquisition like Brandstrom for the Senators. And you look at now a team in Belleville. You have prospects like Harbour. You got Gustafson. I'm sure you've heard the names like Batherson, Brown. With Paul, you continue with Brandstrom. You continue with Linen, Lajoie. Can you see this? Can you see the Senators AHL team Belleville going on a run here? And how do you see that impacting the Senators in the future?
If I were the Senators, I do not touch those young prospects. No. I keep them down there because if you put them into that bad environment, they're going to get destroyed.
Yes.
Like you play fillers. Like you bring up Stefan Elliott and Brian Gibbons and Oscar Lindbergh and Anthony Duclair. Yeah. You keep those guys up there and don't do anything else.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be messy and it's going to get very, very dark.
This season, the rest of there's 20 games left. Game 62 was last night against Calgary, and I make recaps, and I enjoy making recaps for my team. But the next 20 games I don't know if we're gonna win another game. To be honest with you, it's gonna be really bad.
No, you're probably gonna win like the game you don't expect them to win.
That's nothing wrong with them thing though. They always do that.
Huh. It's like the Penguins. They lose to all the bad teams. They've lost to Ottawa twice.
Oh, we beat Tampa Bay once or twice this year, I believe.
Oh, of course. I believe
it. It's weird. It just you don't expect stuff like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving forward, we're going to probably have you on the show, closer to the playoffs. But I just want to get your opinion right now. Who's in? Let's start with the Western Conference. Who's making the playoffs and why?
Well, the playoffs, you've easily got your top 4. You've got Calgary, San Jose, Winnipeg, Nashville. Those ones don't need to be explained for obvious reasons. I'd say St. Louis makes it. They've gotten a nice round of form. I don't know if they go anywhere, but at the very least, they at least have some hope. I don't know. As I said, I feel like Binnington's playing well over his head.
Yeah.
But at least they have, hope, and they're actually playing. Tarasenko has returned to form, and that's what you've got there. In terms of the West, I think Vegas still makes it, so that's 6. I mean, they've been kind of They're no longer the juggernaut that they were last year, but I think they could still be formidable.
With Mark Stone especially.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to be fair, Pacioretty hasn't really worked out as I thought it would.
No, That was turned out to be sort of bad move, but maybe Mark Stone could help them out there.
Mm-hmm. And then you got 2 more wildcard spots, and those are pretty much up for grabs.
Yeah, like you look at. Let me pull that up right now. I'm going to name you some teams, and you tell me who you think is really good to pull out there, because I believe it's like the Wild, Colorado, etc. They're all fighting for position there. Like I'm gonna find that stat right now, but
Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, Avs, Blackhawks can still make it.
That's true.
Ducks are only 9 points out of a wildcard spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the Oilers are only 10. The Canucks can still technically make it, although a few teams have fallen off. Like the Kings, they're done.
Yeah, they're done. So right now, here's an intriguing team. So first place in the wild card, 67 points, Minnesota, Dallas, 66, Minnesota, 65, Colorado, 63, Arizona. Arizona is intriguing to me. I don't know what to make of them. They have been injury riddled all year, and they're still in the fight.
As I said, I've liked Arizona from the beginning. The issue is the injuries that have killed them. Antti Raanta is apparently might be back. So if they get him back, that's going to be huge. I think I did hear he took practice.
Oh, that is fantastic news. I love this
team. He was easily the most underrated player.
Antti Raanta?
Yeah, he said he went on the ice today for the first time since sustaining the knee injury that has sidelined him since late November. And he was out there for 20-25 minutes. That's
good. I assume he'll be back in the next 2-3 weeks then. Probably.
Maybe.
That's good news.
If you're good. I mean, Kemper's done a decent job.
If they're still in it. If they're out of it, there's no point of playing them.
Oh, of course.
But I gotta give credit to Rick Tocchet, man. He's doing things that you can't explain. Like he's bringing this team out of the dead with a bunch of random names like Garland or something. Connor Garland.
Connor Garland's been pretty good.
He's been underrated. He's quietly had a solid season. I gotta give props to the Coyotes. They need some more attention in the mainstream media. They need more attention.
He did a lot of work his final year of junior. Let me look it up again, because I think he had something like 60 goals. I'm sorry, 40 goals and 128 points.
Yeah, he tore it up in his year. He tore it up.
Yeah. He's looking NHL right now.
Yeah, he's looking good. And I think Arizona, that's a team I can see quietly sneaking in, depending on Colorado, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the West is open, extremely open.
It's so open.
My final picks, I'm still going Coyotes and Avalanche. Those were my picks in the beginning, and I'm still sticking to them.
I can't disagree. I think Minnesota. It's either I can see one of the Minnesota or Dallas falling out. The rest of the team stay. So Minnesota or Dallas fall out, and one of those fall out, in my opinion. Maybe Dallas, depending if they can recover after Zook being out and maybe Ben being out long term, and bearing possibly another Ben Bishop injury. I think Minnesota can sneak in over Dallas just because their goaltending hasn't experienced a lot of injury. But that could change, of course. But I think Arizona, if there's going to be a team to sneak in, I think Chicago's had a hot run. But I don't see how they sneak in with inconsistent goaltending, because scoring is everything, but the goaltending is also important.
I think they got Crawford back too. I think Crawford went back.
I saw that. So if they get Crawford back, that changes everything I just said. Everything.
I don't know if they still. Yeah, he's been activated from IR, which is huge for them because they have not had good goaltending. Yeah, and his health is going to be crucial. Yeah.
It's a stretch run. There's about 15, 25 games left for the rest of the team. You got to look at it. It's I think, in my opinion, there's 2 spots. It's Dallas, Minnesota, Arizona, Chicago, maybe Vancouver. Those are the teams that are fighting for that spot. 2 spots are those 5 teams. That's my opinion.
Vancouver's been wrecked by health, so I think they're starting to slip out of it too.
I think they're out. I think they are, but they're still 6 points out, and I got to mention them because they've had a solid season and still open, so they're still in the hunt, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're about to have 6 goalies too. Because they have Mazanek, they got him, and Demko's I think still hurt. So
yeah, we'll see what happens there. Besides that, is there any other trades or anything you want to talk about before we move forward? I'm going to take a look at if there's anything else.
Let me see what else we got here.
Well, I see
most of them. Unless you want to talk about Brenda Montour for Brendan Goulet in a first. That's a decent one.
That's a good idea. Let's talk. That was the last. Oh, and then we could talk about Gustav Nyquist, and then we could wrap it up.
Yep.
That's a good idea. So let's talk about Brenda Montour first. That's great thing to talk about, actually. So where do you want to start?
I don't know much about Montour. I hear really great things about him. So,
flawless
skater. Yeah, I'm hearing like good things, but I hear like a lot of mix from him. Like some saying like he's not that good, some saying he's got potential to be great. Yes, Goulet is like kind of like he hasn't really developed that much.
Yeah,
he's still like he'll be good like in the future maybe as like a third pairing guy.
Second, third pairing, yeah.
Yeah, but like I mean, the conditional first is going to be the key.
I think Anaheim has accepted its fate, and they got a decent. I don't know why they shipped out Montour though.
My question is, why do they ship out Montour and then keep
everyone
Jacob
else?
Silfverberg? Like that doesn't make sense to me. And they signed him to a 5-year deal, $5.25 million. It's like why?
Silfverberg's a good player, but a little steep, and then you get rid of Montour. It just organization's in a mess.
It is.
In a mess. We move forward now. I'm going to talk about that Gustav Nyquist trade that happened at the dawn of night last night. I believe it happened at like 12-something in the morning. Let me just scroll down to that. It was Gustav Nyquist to the San Jose Sharks from the Detroit Red Wings for, let me find that. Scrolling. Second-round pick and a conditional 2023. So what's your initial thoughts on that one? That's a bigger deal in the NHL.
Oh, for the Nyquist deal? I'm surprised Detroit didn't get as much as I thought. Like, Detroit didn't do much at the deadline because they were all locked into no trade clauses. Like, Jimmy Howard didn't want to waive his. I don't blame him. He's lived in Detroit his whole life. He doesn't want to uproot family. Nyquist, I mean, in an age where Ryan Dzingel is getting 2 seconds and Kevin Hayes is getting the first, Nyquist is a better talent than those two. And I don't know why you would pay that much for them.
It shocked me. I saw that. I'm like, well, like Dzingel got 2 seconds and a forward, and like, how is Nyquist, who has more points than Dzingel, not getting more? I think that was a loss for Detroit by a mile. I think they could have got. They might have been able to sneak a first for a team from first and like a third or a fourth from a team like Boston, who was desperate. They would have traded much more desperately. I know they were in it for Nyquist, but I don't know why they just took that. They could have waited, held it out for the last hour for a desperate team that lost on Simmons, that lost on Stone, that lost on whatever, and got a good at least 2 seconds or a second and a third and a prospect or something like that, or even a first, like I said previously, over than the package they got. I think they could have waited. They should have waited that out longer and got something better.
Perhaps. It's also that, like, maybe Nyquist had the power there because he was the one that also had a no-trade clause. Ken Holland hands them out like candy.
Yeah.
And so that's Ken Holland, like, biting you in the ass again, too.
Besides that, I'm going to give a minute to everyone. Comment below teams you want us to talk about. We'll do a quick mention on everyone, and then we'll wrap things up. So I see somebody here spoke about how we don't talk about the Caps. Not much to speak about the Caps. They won the Cup. Burakovsky's having not as good as the years.
They did make a big trade for Nick Jensen.
Yes. 4-year deal.
And then they extended him too, Madison Bowie apparently hasn't been doing too hot.
No.
So, like, I mean, it's a nice refresh for him at least. And then he got, I think, what was it, a second or a third for him?
For Jensen, I think it was something like that.
Let me look at that. And then Ben Lovejoy to the start. Oh, that's a second, a 2020 second in Bowie for a 19 fifth and Jensen.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I see the Capitals as I don't know if they're going to go on another run. It really depends on Braden Holtby.
They got a shot. I mean, they also got Carl Hagelin, so Pens fans are pissed about that. Apparently, the Pens wanted to reacquire him again, but they retained salary, so they can't. Well, because JR is weird and a fossil.
He is weird.
He has not. He's been rough since the 2017 Cup.
Really? Yeah, I can see that. And they still have Ovechkin, so Washington's never out of it as long as Ovechkin's on that team. Moving forward now, Luke Dolan asked about the Rangers. He's actually, speaking of the Rangers, Brian Lawton, he works at NHL Network, former GM, said that Columbus inquired on Henrik Lundqvist today. And obviously,
Lundqvist is not going to waive his NMC.
No, he said no. Everyone said no. He was not going anywhere. But he says, Luke Dolan continues, says he feels bad for Lundqvist. The Rangers are clearly in rebuild mode. They've traded Zook. They've traded Hayes. Where are they in the next few years?
They're still deep in a rebuild. I think they can bounce back because they have an interesting prospect pool. But at the same time, that it's going to take a good bit for them to get back to what they were.
Yeah.
You have pieces to build on, like Hedel, Elias Anderson. I think you have got Kravtsov. So, Buchnevich.
I thought it's a weird name, but I think he's a good player. Very underrated. I think they found somebody thinking him. And Mika Zibanejad, former Ottawa Senator, having a solid season and showing what he can do as a young forward already, showing he's a top center for a team.
I kind of thought they would trade him, too. They can get a nice return for Zibanejad.
Oh, yeah. Mika Zibanejad, they could get a nice return, but
you can get 2 first-round picks for that guy.
Yeah. He's he's at the level of Matt Duchene, especially for a trade asset.
Mm-hmm. And didn't Ottawa trade him because they didn't want to pay him a bonus or something?
Mm-hmm. It was whatever. It wouldn't shock me. Luke Dolan continues to say, did you see that interview from Lundqvist about Zook? That when Lundqvist got very choked up, very, very emotional. Shows the human side of the sport.
Well, they have been playing with each other for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had been a Ranger since 2010.
Yeah. It was it just shows the human side of the sport that I don't think enough people speak about,
It's tough sometimes.
Yeah, it is. Tarzan K, one of the last comments I'm going to read. Who wins the lottery? Who goes first overall? Colorado selects first. Ooh, that is, before I do like a draft simulator, that's interesting. Hughes or Kakko?
I mean, you go for best player available, and the best player available for me would be Jack Hughes.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, Kakko is a great player, but he's not going to be the franchise face. Like Kakko, I think his upside could be like Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's do last thing we'll do before we end the stream. NHL draft lottery simulator. Let's do that. See if Ottawa wins it, of course. Tankathon.
I think they have a high chance. I think they'll have the top chance.
Let's sim the lottery. You ready for this, Tree? And everyone else?
Yes, sir.
Ottawa gets the first overall selection. Buffalo second. Los Angeles third. Fourth. Detroit fifth. New Jersey 6th. Anaheim 7. Oilers 8. Canucks 9th. Chicago 10th. Rangers 11th. Arizona 12th. Florida 13th. Minnesota 14th. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh with the 15th overall selection.
Dude, Buffalo would be just jumping for joy if they got the number 2 pick.
They slide.
Kakko with Casey Mittelstadt and Jack Eichel.
Oh man, imagine. That would be insane. But besides that, not much more to talk about. It was a quiet deadline. I think you covered it in your live stream. Everyone, if I'll put it in the description after this video uploads, UrinatingTree's channel. He had a video live stream that you can definitely check out for his content. Great content. Speaking of that content that you make, were you ever thinking? Are you considering any more specifically hockey videos in the upcoming days or months?
I'm definitely going to do at least a few hockey videos in the next few months.
Okay, good. And one more thing, baseball season coming around. Who do you see winning the World Series? First, early predictions.
I would probably say Boston. I would go Houston. Or, National League's interesting because there are a lot of teams that are trying to compete. Probably Milwaukee.
I can see Milwaukee. Yeah.
If they get the pitching back, they're good.
It just depends. I just want to see where Bryce Harper signs. Most likely Philadelphia. We'll see.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Besides that, UrinatingTree, tell everyone where they can find your content, and then I'll wrap things up.
Well, I'm just located on UrinatingTree. Videos, I guess. But also, I'm on Twitter, too. I just shitpost on there. It's just UrinatingTree.
Just check out his content, guys and girls. Great content. He produces lots of quality content and entertainment. So please check him out. Friend of the show, UrinatingTree. Thank you so much for joining us once again for the trade deadline recap. Besides that, any last words before I wrap things up?
Hey, dude, I'm glad you had me on again, man. I'm glad I can join you. But otherwise, I'm probably going to lament Eric Goodbranson. I mean, he's a big physical guy when the Pens needed to get speed. Mm-hmm. So
this is what happens when you have the boys club as your management group.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, I'll speak to you very soon, UrinatingTree, and hopefully we'll have you on for a pre-playoff show, possibly in the next coming month or two, if you potentially.
Yeah, definitely, man.
And besides that, let's just wrap things up. So please follow me on Twitter at @SensTalk_. We're live tweeting updates of the Sanders games. Lots of funny content, considering there's not much to talk about for the Sanders besides very dreadful things. So please follow me there. Please like us on Facebook at SensTalk. Add us to our circles on Google Plus SensTalk. Click the big red button down there and subscribe to us. Really appreciate that. Please check out our website, SensTalkCentral.com. Update that every single day. And of course, our sponsor, SeatGeek.com. Download the app at the App Store. Use the promo code SENSTALK. Save $20 off your first purchase. Really helps us keep these videos coming. Besides that, UrinatingTree. Thank you so much for joining us. And the rest of you guys, I'll see you. I believe there's a game tomorrow against Washington or something. So I'll see you tomorrow when the Sens take on the Washington Capitals. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great night, and I'll speak to you guys soon.